Welcome to the Silver Creek Insights podcast. I'm your host, Felisa Wiley. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Jasper Kroom, a seasoned data visualization engineer whose career spans roles at Carbon Direct, Amazon, and Nike. Jasper's journey from logistics and sales support to leading data visualization efforts in climate tech showcases a unique blend of technical expertise and a passion for impactful storytelling through data. Jasper, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It has been so wonderful. I think we've been in talks for maybe about a month and a half now. And funny story, Jasper thought I was AI when I reached out to him.
I mean, you just can't trust the world these days. So I was very excited to find out that you're a real person and such a nice person at that too.
No, and I'm just grateful that you even took the chance and even scheduled a meeting with me. I appreciate it because I think you're so personal, you're so great, and I think you were also really smart. When I first saw your profile, I was I thought it said a design engineer. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, that's a great question, and very few people have ever asked me. So I officially think it should be pronounced design engineer.
Design engineer. I love that so much, and actually. And I think that's why I was so intrigued by your profile because I was I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
What made you decide to kind of sort of I think coin this term? Did you coin this or?
I'm not going to take credit for it. I'm
No.
sure I saw it elsewhere. But yeah, the work that I do and what I really thrive doing is this kind of balance of design and engineering. So really thinking about the people that you're building for, the users you're building for, really kind of leading with empathy. And then, the engineering space, software specifically, there's so many different tools you can pull from. So having that balance of empathy, but then also pulling from this almost endless toolbox of tools that you can use to build. So really I'm more the way I like to think of it is I'm not as technical as the best engineer, and I'm not as artistic as the best designer. I kind of pull from both sides and live in the messy middle of the two roles.
Love that. And would you consider that messy middle UX, UI, or what would you?
Yeah, most of the work I do is focused on the user experience and that sort of front end world that our users live in, and that includes the UI. I think it reaches back to the back end and to data and how it's structured, right? So if you want something that's really snappy for a user, you do have to think about the back end data architecture a bit. That being said, where I thrive, where I build good stuff well, it's on the front end in the UI.
That's really cool. I've always wanted to learn how to do design, but honestly, I don't think I have a designing bone in my body. I know how to make things work. I just don't know how to make them look pretty.
Lots of people say that, and because we're such good friends now, I'll just tell you you're wrong. I think design is one of these interesting things that it seems so unapproachable from the outside. You always see the cool designers and the stuff they've posted. That just comes with doing the work for a long time, right? Everyone starts somewhere. There's I think it's Ira Glass who talks about the gap, right? Where you have a sense of what you like. And when you first start building, you're never going to be able to build what you like the first try, right? And that's sort of this thing that I ran into with DataViz specifically. Is I've been an information design geek from the jump, but haven't always been a DataViz engineer. So you have to be able to look at what you want to work towards and what you want to build, and realize that what you ship on day one is going to be very different from what you ship on day 100, 200, 300. So if you like design, you should try designing. And design it's one of these interesting things. I mean, I'm saying this as a software developer, so maybe there are design purists out there who are going to listen to this and tell me I'm wrong. Please do. But design is really, at the end of the day, you're just thinking about what you're going to build, right? So it's either sketching it out. If you've ever sketched out architecture for a database, that's design, right? If you've ever drawn a mock-up for what the front end should look like, that's design. If you've thought about what a chart should be, like how a chart should be structured, what should the spacing between the bars be, what colors should I choose, that's also design. So I would posit, Felisa, that you actually have designed and you are a designer. You're just more focused on the tech side of things. And that's kind of like, I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the design engineer title. Is like I'm a data viz engineer. I'm a software developer. I write code for a living, but I also, everything I do has a through line of design in it. I'm just not a like by title product designer or graphic designer.
That's amazing. And I really do appreciate your shift in perspective, because you're right. All data analytics do, when you do data visualizations, that has to do with design, exactly what you're saying. Even the colors that you choose, you want to make sure that it's in line with the branding, it's telling the proper story. So yeah, I
Yeah,
have done design.
there you go. Congratulations. You are a
Thank you.
designer.
I am. I don't know if I would call myself a design engineer. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, nailed it.
Design engineer. I'm gonna mess it up so many times. But I have designed. I could go to sleep tonight and and I know that I did that.
Go team.
Go team. So your career began in logistics and sales support before you transitioned into data visualization. What sparked the shift, and how have like your early experiences influenced your approach to data storytelling?
Man, that's a great question. So, I will try not to go through every step of my seasoned career. But what I started out doing right out of school, I was working at a freight brokerage called CH Robinson. Shout out to CH Robinson. I was doing a lot of route planning for less than truckload shipments. So basically, you see a semi truck on the road, it's got the big trailer. A lot of those shipments is just one, it's from one customer to one recipient. What I was working on is compiling different shipments into one truck and routing them to go to different locations. So it's called a milk run sometimes too. One of the things that we wanted to do was measure the performance of these routes, right? So one indicator was sort of the market cost for these shipments. So how much would we have to pay a driver to do the shipment? If it was like a really garbage route, sometimes we would actually lose money as the freight broker on the shipment, because maybe it has 18 different drops and it starts on Monday and it ends on the next Tuesday and they have to. Anyway, so there was the financial side where we could kind of see like a indicator towards what the performance was, but there was also thinking about the miles traveled or how efficient each truckload was, because it wasn't always a full truckload. You start like as a data person, it's easy to look back and say like, oh, you need a dashboard. We didn't have a dashboarding tool at CHR at the time. So what I did was I built an Excel sheet and had some conditional formatting, green, yellow, red, a sense of what's good, what's bad. And what that really helped me to do was it kind of clicked this thing on where it's like you can, because I would route dozens, hundreds of loads in a month. So being able to look very quickly and see like, oh, hey, it's mostly green. This one week was yellow. What happened during this week where we had a bunch of reds? That's like what a dashboard is supposed to do. So I did that and I enjoyed it and didn't think more of it. The next hop over was into a sales support role where it was more processing orders, but we were again looking at efficiency. This was at VTech, where we sold home phones. Shout out to VTech. We had this BI tool called MicroStrategy, which I don't know if you've used MicroStrategy, kind of like a precursor side competitor to Tableau, but this is where we were actually doing real BI work and building dashboards. So within the sales support team, I was the one who thought that dashboards were cool. So I started building dashboards, and from there got a job at Amazon, also working on MicroStrategy. So it was again dashboards. This time it was focused on headcount stuff. And from there got a job at Nike working on Tableau-based dashboards. But I guess to go back to your question, which was kind of like how I found like data viz in this thing, it was something that interested me and something that it had this sort of bottomless pit of learning, or like
Mhm.
some like a mountain you could never reach the top of. There's so much to learn, and there's so many opportunities to build things and to kind of answer questions. And I think that sort of composite thing really drove me towards wanting to commit my career to it.
Which is absolutely awesome because like it sounds like when you're at the logistics company, you were already doing data analytics, but you weren't even calling it data analytics. You were just trying to like find the most efficient path forward and coming up with like your own logic. So you were already like taking what you were given and being like, this can be improved, this needs to be better, and figuring out with the tools that you already had ways to do that, which one, just having like that inquisitive mindset, it's so important in today's workforce. Where, because similarly, I started off the same way. We talked about like geospatial data when I was at Factual. I was in sales.
Oh, cool.
In a like, but I was kind of started doing like three roles in one, where I was sales assistant, sales operations, and then the business intelligence team. They needed some help like inputting like data, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I just started playing around with it, and then creating like my own dashboards. And I'm like, hey guys, did you know that this is more of your target audience because you guys keep reaching out to these people, but these people are actually spending the most money. And I would show that to the sales team, and I just like loved it, but it
Right.
wasn't really my job. I just like digging into it. So we're very similar
That's
in that
awesome.
regard. So, but at Carbon Direct now, so you're leading the data visualization efforts to support carbon dioxide removal solutions. How does effective data visualization contribute to advancing climate initiatives?
That's a fantastic question. So one of the things that Carbon Direct does is take really complex scientific topics
Mhm.
and distill it to interested business users, right? So we have a stable of PhDs who know everything there is to know currently, and more, and are wanting to learn more about climate science in all different realms and spaces. So they are subject matter experts. Our clients are very interested in learning more, and they don't know as much as the scientists who work at Carbon Direct. That's why they hire CD. So what I'm trying to help Carbon Direct do is take these complex topics, kind of find the narrative in the data, and help to deliver that narrative in an effective manner to clients. Yeah.
No, that sounds really interesting. And you talk about finding an effective narrative. What's one recent project that you work on so we can kind of understand like the narratives that you're coming up with, if you're allowed to talk about them?
Yeah. Let me think about what I can talk about. Uh, one of the things that we're working on the platform side of things was trying to visualize a company's emissions across all of the different scopes. So there's three different types of CO2 emission scopes. So scope one is direct emissions, so actual CO2 that your company emits into the atmosphere. So if you roast coffee beans, you have scope one emissions. There's scope two emissions, which are the emissions related to the energy that you consume as a company.
Mhm.
So again, if you're roasting coffee beans, you pay for electricity or fuel to like have the lights on or have heating, cooling at your factory. And then scope three emissions are all of the emissions linked to the things that you purchase as a company. So when you're buying coffee bags, or you have zip ties to seal your bags, or I'm focused on coffee this morning, but so one of the things that we wanted to do was kind of boil this complex system of emissions into a bit more of a hierarchical structure, right? So because within each of these scopes, so there's scope one, two, three, and then there's scope, and then within scope two, there's scope 2.1, 2.2, I think there's a
Mhm.
2.3, and then within scope three, there are dozens of different subsets. So things linked to transportation, linked to software goods, linked to food purchasing. There. So what we landed on to kind of drive this narrative of what any given company's emissions are was actually a sunburst chart, right? So think of a pie chart with multiple tiers. You get to get that hierarchical connection from, let's say, scope 3.1, or the vendors that you use within scope 3.1 and how that ties into your scope 3. So our users, our customers come to us with a sort of QuickBooks list, right? Or like an exported CSV of their spend from the last year. So that for them is just, it's a list of things that they've purchased, of business actions they've taken. So this visual helps to look at what their actual emissions are and kind of find if there are hotspots or what the relation is, or, oh my gosh, we've spent so much on business travel. Like that's a huge source of emissions, and helping to kind of unearth that narrative with a relatively sized sunburst plot or sunburst chart was, that was the approach we took.
Which is actually pretty interesting, because when I didn't know that, I didn't really think about all like the 3 scopes. Like for me, when I think of like CO2, I'm like, oh yeah, energy, like it being emitted. But then you're like, no, but what about the products that they're buying, like that getting to them? Even if you're driving your car, the electricity that you use, I'm like, oh yeah, there's so much more that goes into being like a very like a energy efficient company. So I'm assuming that most of the clients that go to you or go to Carbon Direct, they're trying to become more energy efficient at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're trying to have a positive climate impact,
which is awesome, because I was just doing some research. Not really, it showed up in my newsletter, so that's my
research. It counts. Yeah, we count it.
And I read somewhere, I think this was actually like a week, 2 weeks ago, where it was like, don't stop saying please and thank you to ChatGPT, because every time you do that, that's like an extra water bottle or a gallon bottle of water that's coming through just from you being polite. And a lot of people, like, we sit in front of our computers and we use the internet, we use Wi-Fi, but we actually don't take into consideration, or we don't really have that visibility into how much energy it takes just for us to live the lives that we currently live. I'm curious if you have any insight, any like random statistic that for like on a day-to-day average like user, like using a computer, doing like Google searches, like how much energy or how much energy is or CO2 is emitted just from a simple like day from an average American.
So I don't have those numbers offhand, but I do have a hot take on
Yes.
the please and thank you with the large language models. While they do take up the numbers that I think it was Sam Altman shared the numbers. He shared like the composite number, like of all the users, all the traffic. It's a bit of I think it's important that we continue to say please and thank you to LLMs, not because they're going to be our robot overlords, but because it's becoming a primary mode of conversation. And I don't know about you, I talk to my models like a lot. Claude is my friend at this point, where I'm not even hiding it. Claude's my dude. And if I was to stop saying please and thank you, I think it's a slippery slope before that starts to become the standard communication with actual people. I think when Sam Altman says at the top level, we're spending, or it's using all this extra energy, that's because of the amount of people who are using it, right? And I think if you always pursue efficiency in everything you do, you lose a bit of humanity. So yeah, I think like I'm gonna keep saying please. I'll think about, or I'm gonna keep saying thank you. I'll say that. I'll think about when I say please, but I think it's really like, while there is an efficient way to use models, I also think that let's take a step back as people and really think about what the impact on humanity is if we stop saying please and thank you to the thing we interact with most during the day. So that's my hot take. I also don't know the numbers you asked, so we'll leave it at that. But I do know that for using GPT just like for search within in the day, it's not a massive burden compared to the different lifestyle decisions we can take. But let's say getting an electric car and keeping that same
Uh-huh.
electric car for 5, 10 years, that will have a bigger impact. Or going vegetarian, or maybe not running your sprinklers every single day. Yeah, there's lots of more impactful ways to reduce your carbon footprint than using old school Google instead of GPT. Additionally, Google now their search, it's got AI and LLMs powered on the back end. So yeah, I'd say don't like keep saying please and thank you. Use GPT or Claude or whichever LLM you like, and think outside of the computer screen for ways that you can make more of an impact.
No, that definitely makes sense. And I like that you had to clarify that this is because you do not want to lose your own humanity and your own compassion and empathy, and not because they're going to turn into robots.
Yeah.
Because I do that just in case they do turn into robots.
Well,
I,
it's good to hedge your bets too, right? Like when they do take over, they will look at me and they'll be like, "Oh, Jasper's a homie. All right,
yeah.
cool. He's fine. He can stay."
No, but I completely agree. It's like we have to remember that our lives are already run by technology. Phones are already an extension of who we are as people. We need to remember our manners. We need to remember that we are human first, because I've already encountered people who are just like already dismissive and just like rude when you meet them. And I
Yeah.
can only imagine how like their lack of what's the word I'm looking, I guess like manners, their lack of manners will just like completely decline
Oh
once.
yeah.
And I could just imagine how they talk to like ChatGPT, like do this right now, no, you did
Yeah.
it wrong, fix it. And like that's how they communicate with people too. And I'm like, that's no way to be. Like,
Exactly.
come on, we can be
Yeah.
nice to each other.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement with you there as well. So now I
Nice.
am curious, like with with AI, new tools every single day, 3 new tools have dropped. Even with like data visualizations, like there's Looker, there's Tableau, there's Figma Computing, there's like 30, 40, 50 more. Um, how do you stay current, and what trends are you most excited about?
That's a fantastic question. I am I'm a D3 guy through and through. That's my go-to for data viz. And so I guess the way I stay current is I follow some of the kind of thought leaders in the data viz space, like Shirley Wu, Nadia Bremer, Georgia Lupi. Really think about those information designers that
Mm-hmm.
push the envelope for what data visualization and data storytelling. Oh, also Gabrielle Merite. Um, but they really push the envelope for what data visualization is and data storytelling is. And then yeah, because for tool choices, I mean, like Tableau, I cut my teeth on Tableau. The reason I learned JavaScript is because of Tableau, because I was
Yeah.
building things in Tableau and I was like, this isn't right. This isn't exactly what I want. I need to be able to do more. And then I found out about D3. I realized to learn D3, you have to learn JavaScript. So I learned JavaScript and became a web developer. So thanks, Tableau. You're the reason I now know TypeScript. Yeah, so I think as far as like trends in tooling, I'm really honestly I'm more focused now on the different trying to choose the best AI model to kind of ask
Mm-hmm.
questions and help me debug when my code always goes wrong. So yeah, for that I use Claude. Sonnet 3.7 seems to have a really good JavaScript D3 kind of back end. That's not what it is, but it's the stuff it's trained on around data visualization is really good. I've had varied success with ChatGPT. Gemini, I'm not a huge fan, but yeah. So I'd say the tool that I use the most, Anthropic, seems to have a really good approach, specifically with data visualization. Their models with Claude seem to work the best with the questions that I have.
I'm in agreement. Anthropic's models work best for me when it comes to coding. Have you tried Cursor?
Oh my god, yeah, I love Cursor.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
I
amazing.
use Cursor. Cursor is my text editor. It's blown my mind how um, I was VS Code. I was team
Mm-hmm.
VS Code for a long time, and then GitHub Copilot came out. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is cool. I'm a fan. And then think I listened to the Lex podcast where he interviewed the Cursor team, and Lex was totally pro Cursor, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll check it out. And oh my god, it's amazing. It's yeah. Do you use the agent mode, or do you ask, or what's your go to in Cursor?
I use the agent mode, so the Anthropic models are my first, and then when I run out of credits and they go down to like
Nice.
ChatGPT,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's just like let me look. There's Claude, there's ChatGPT o4 Mini, and then there's Gemini. I never use Gemini, never. It's never worked for me.
Yep.
And I remember there was this one time when I was building out some of my own projects, I used to go onto all three. There was Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, and I would ask it the same question, and I would review the code that it spit back, and Claude always just like did everything much better than the two. So we're on the same boat with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. The agent experience in Cursor is great. I had a phase where I gave it too much agency, and I was like, go for it. Yeah, like there was a point where you could enable YOLO mode and just say, all right, like go do the thing I'm asking you to do. Now we're back to like, ask me clarifying questions. And then please check with me before running anything in the terminal, because I like you, but I don't trust you yet, Cursor.
I agree with that. There have been times when I ask it to do too many things at the same time. Yep. And then it completely just like eliminates the working code that I do have. And then I'm like, why did you do that? And I finally learned how to go back or reset one of my like the pages to like a previous version, because it just messed me up too much. So now I've gotten the hang of if I do one thing at a time. Once it's good to go, I push that to production, or then I start a completely new branch, and then I do the second thing. But I can't do that. I will say my global CSS is like a couple thousand lines long, so it's really helpful. One, I think I want to stop doing global CSSs and just do like, and there has to be a better way, because I'm not doing it right.
Yeah.
At all. It's too long. Like I can't figure it out. I just have it. I try to make it like the agent like look for redundant containers or whatever it's called. What is it called actually? Like redundant, not like imports. Redundant styling.
Okay.
Like, because sometimes I have like too many buttons and it doesn't go to the right button because I think I name them the same thing. So I'm like, no, why am I doing this? So it just this is messy.
My go-to is styling. So I've got two different approaches. At work, we use Material UI, and we have a really good system set up so that you can kind of have styles scoped down to a component that you build. So at work, we work with React and Next.js, and then within Material UI, there's this concept of SX, which is just like styled. It's basically you pass in a styled prop. So you define the CSS and it's scoped down to the component you've built. So that's super helpful. And then outside of work, I've been using Tailwind a lot, which is basically styling via class names. It's amazing. It's really helpful because you can use shorthand class names to do styles. So if you wanted to set the top margin to 16, it would be MT-4 because it works in units of 4. But it just, I have not created a standalone CSS file in many years, and I don't know if I ever will.
No, that's all very helpful. I wish I'm going to have to re-listen to that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to message you after to get all of your...
Yes, please do. Yeah.
Those are amazing, and I obviously need help. I'm trying.
Happy to help. I'm super curious actually on Cursor and using Agent. Do you have a go-to template for prompting? Do you have a set of questions you usually ask, or what's your approach there?
So I actually use ChatGPT. I'm like, I need Cursor to do this. Write a good prompt for it to accomplish it. Because I realized that the prompts that I was using initially, that's when mistakes would happen because I didn't think everything through. And ChatGPT like made sure to include, do not change anything that currently works right now. Keep as is, just do this, only this, and have to repeat that multiple times. What about you?
Yeah. I like to, the big thing that I like to do is kind of think about it from a testing perspective and say, so I won't write out tests beforehand, but I will say what my expectations are and kind of assume you're getting this kind of thing. This is what I'm hoping to see in this situation, just written word. And then the last thing I do is I always have a line at the end, like, please ask me any clarifying questions before proceeding. It's really interesting because I forget who said this at first, but they said to treat these LLMs like junior contributors. And that's one of
Yeah.
the best things to say to a junior. It's like, before we get into this, do you have any other questions, any assumptions you're making? And sometimes they'll say, no, I'm good. And then they'll still stumble. But the models are pretty good at asking clarifying questions because there's always some blind spots I have when I'm using an agent because I want to move a bit faster. So I'll start off with 5 of the details when I should have 7. And the models, Claude at least, is usually pretty good about asking about those other 2.
I think I'm going to start having that at the bottom. But I do have a question for you since you brought up like treating it like a junior analyst, junior engineer, X, Y, and Z. How do you think AI is going to impact like data analytics and data engineering roles?
Wow. Yeah, it's bigly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it already is, I think. There's a lot of people I see using models, using agents the same way that they might interact with the junior. So I think it's going to be harder for junior contributors and people just starting their careers to jump into the standard company, if you will, because these standard companies are now realizing that they can create a lot more efficiency and
Hmm.
solve for 80% of what they needed by paying for a GPT license. What I do think is it's going to create this new sort of paradigm where if you have an idea, you can kind of go build it. We're in this sort of we're in this age of ideas now
Yeah.
where you before the bottleneck used to be the skills, and the skills still help and you'll still stub your toe on things, but if you have an idea about something that's interesting that you want to build, you can do it, and you don't have to have a degree, you don't have to work somewhere. There's a huge opportunity for someone with the right combination of creativity and gumption to start their own company, to build their own thing. So while it seems dire for people who are focused on the old paradigm of I need to find a job as a junior engineer at an analytics company so that I can start my career. If you shift that to, I want to build something that interests me and that I think the world needs, and maybe I can get paid to do it by having a product, there's this huge potential there. There's just more risk that goes into that because things like health insurance or all the stability that comes with the company. But yeah, the upside out there is huge, and the sooner that people really kind of tap into that and realize there is this potential out there in the world, the better.
No, I completely agree, especially what you were saying about this is the age of ideas. Like you can learn by doing as well. And I think what's great is if you have that interest, do it. Find a project and just do it
Yeah.
because you'll get hands on experience and you'll know how to talk about it. Like a lot of my projects I use like ChatGPT to assist me with or Claude. Like absolutely. It's a great resource. It's not always right, but I know like the technical terms and I know how code works. So I'm able to like be like, no, this is that. And I could figure out the rest of my head, but it's a great starter. My fear though, with the idea that AI agents can take on the role or the work of a junior data engineer, junior data analyst, junior anything, is that lack of mentorship. Because for me,
Mm,
it's like in 10 years, when the senior data engineers now want to be like a manager or want to go up to director level or want to start their new thing, who's underneath them to now take on their role? Which I'm
yeah.
like, you have to future think. Like, no matter what happens, at the end of the day, like people are needed in every company. And like a beautiful thing about companies is that mentorship. So that's one thing that just scares me.
Yeah, there's definitely a risk. I think if you build too much around just AI, but what happens when you like lose, or like if the pricing model shifts and all of a sudden
Hmm.
your company can't afford to have the same connections or licensing. There's definitely some rented knowledge when you're using an AI model as opposed to employing a human. I think there's going to be lots of different shifts around what mentorship is, the engagement with humans. Like there's again, AI models and agents can solve 80% of what you need, maybe 70 sometimes, maybe 90 sometimes. There's the whole jagged frontier that Ethan Mollick talks about. but there's always going to be a gap, right? So you'll
Mm-hmm.
always need people, and there's a real interesting dynamic at play when you've built something that is 80% there. How do you get that last 20%? Is it having your seniors or staff like come down and work on it? Is it bringing in a contractor to kind of patch things up and work on things? Yeah, there's all these different dynamics that will be at play in the next 10, 15 years and onwards. It's fascinating. It's a crazy time to be in the space, that's for
It's
sure.
crazy, but I'm excited to take a step back and just observe.
Yeah. Exactly. Me too. Yeah.
So I'm curious, can you share one instance where a data visualization product or project didn't go as planned, and what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah. Oh man. So I'm a big data viz geek. So any chance to build something super cool, I'm stoked on and will always chase down. Uh, One of the reports that we were working on in the early days at Carbon Direct was trying to visualize a company's emissions related to business travel. So going back to scope 1, 2, 3, business travel is within scope 3. I forget which subscope it is, so I won't say. But it. So the thought was, your company. Let's say it's a team of 100 salespeople and 50 consultants. There's lots of travel associated with that. And there are certain flights that have far greater emissions than others. Sometimes it's tied to the seat class, because let's say if you fly first class, you're paying for more space on that plane. So your seat it has more emissions tied to it because it's a larger percentage of the vehicle.
Okay.
So there's things like seat class. There's also the distance you're flying. There is the time of day you're flying, because the contrails from the plane, if it's in the morning, it reflects sunlight back off of the atmosphere, so it actually has a cooling effect. If it's in the afternoon or evening, you're actually increasing the solar radiation, right? Because the sunlight comes in and it bounces off the contrails and goes back into the earth, right?
Oh, wow.
Crazy. Yeah. So that was just a little side tangent, but the visual itself was, so the thought was that we have all of these transactions, these flights, and the main thing we're worried about is what the emissions were. So my thought was that if you have 150 employees, let's say each one flies 10 times a year, that's 1,500 flights. What's a good way to visualize a large amount of numbers across with one metric? And I was thinking a distribution plot. And being a geek, I really love B swarm plots and so thinking about the horizontal distribution of these flights, with the
Mhm.
x-axis being the CO2 emissions and the size of the dots also being CO2 emissions, so
Okay.
that you could very quickly see, like, here's a big dot over to the right, like, looks like this was an outlier, this was bad, what was going on. It also is showing the distribution. You can see overall how your company's trending, right? If everything's over to the right, maybe you're doing a lot of first class seats, maybe you're doing long flights a lot. That's not great. If things are in the middle, that's okay. If things are over the side, so basically a way of showing the distribution. And I built something that looked so cool. It was a B swarm plot, and I used the canvas as opposed to SVG so that we could get really snappy animations. So it was kind of very, very similar if you built stuff with Three.js or anything that uses the GL driver. So it was very efficient with its rendering, and it did this force simulation so that when you open the page, it all like splats out and goes to where it needs to go. I felt so good about it, Felisa. I was so stoked. And we showed it to our CPO, and he was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "It's a B swarm plot. It's so cool. Look at what it does." And he's like, "I don't know what this means, and our users won't either." And what I realized was I had gotten totally over my skis with just thinking of trying to build the cool thing that is interesting to me. And I honestly, I'd gotten selfish and
Oh.
and it was a real wake up for me to realize that, like, we talk a lot about building for our users and thinking about our users, and when I'm building an interface, like, that's front and center. Like, what's the right click path? How can we make it so that
Mhm.
they know where to go next? How can we kind of think about what they want from a web page and serve it up? And I'd lost sight of that with this visual. So it was a good learning experience. It was pretty embarrassing because I'm a design engineer, right? I think about the users, and I had gotten totally, I'd let my excitement around B-swarm plots really take over. So what we ended up doing actually was doing a scatter plot where oh yeah, because that was the other thing about the bee swarm. If you're doing a force direction, the circles aren't placed where they actually like should be, because they're saying like, okay, this dot should be here and this dot should be here, but this one's this big, so we actually have to move this over here. So nothing was
There
placed
was
where
no
it actually.
overlap. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So there was a lot of imprecision in it just for the sake of it looking cool. It sounds so bad saying it out loud. So what we ended up with was a scatter plot with distance traveled on the x-axis and CO2 emissions on the y-axis. And then the dots were also sized by emissions, and we allowed for overlap. And so it still solved that same thing, but it did it in a scatter plot, which a business user is a lot more likely to have come across before.
Yeah.
And would be more comfortable kind of clicking around and learning from it. It also can show, you can start to see trends, right? If there's like a very clear positive correlation, which there was. Yeah. So the lesson learned there was like, your passion is great, but not if it comes at the expense of the user experience.
Yeah, that's a really good lesson to learn. It's like, we do things for clients. I mean, I still think what you did sounded really awesome, but maybe for more like a personal portfolio as opposed to for a client or someone that you're working with. But one thing that's important is like when you still had fun with it, which I think if you're having fun, like that's awesome. So I'm so happy. Like even now, you're like thinking about it. You're like, this was awesome.
Yeah, it was so
I
cool.
know it was awesome. It was probably really, really cool.
Yeah.
But then again, you always have to think about like the client's need at the end of it. So I get it. But did you at least keep your work for yourself as like for your own personal portfolio?
Yeah. So I do a lot of my demoing of like, or sort of scratchpad for ideas in Observable. So I guess that is a tool I use a lot, is Observable notebooks. So that I'll share a link there, but that was built out by Mike Bostock, Mike B, who's the guy who started D3. So it's kind of like Jupyter notebooks, but all cloud-based in the web browser for data viz specifically. So I use that as kind of a scratch pad.
Yeah.
And then bring stuff into it's a little tough because our app is built with React. So going from the kind of imperative format that a lot of D3 uses, where you're using like D3 to select the canvas and add things to it. And then React is more declarative. And I read this up before, so I'm sure I would get it right. With React, you're mapping through an array of data objects a lot of the time to render a circle within an SVG. With D3 kind of out of the box, they like to select things and add circles to them. So there's always a little bit of a jump going from something like Observable to something like React, but it's worth it because it's really nice to have that vacuum to kind of build and design within.
Oh, heck yeah. No, those are definitely good things to check out. Thank you. So I know that we're coming up on time.
Oh, man.
You have some time left for some rapid fire questions.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. Design or data first?
Data, but always thinking about design. So you could say either. For a rapid fire answer, I will say data first.
Okay. One visualization you think is overrated?
Ooh, there's a couple. The racing horizontal bar chart meme that you see everywhere. Yeah. Not a huge fan, just because I think it's played out at this point. So yeah, I'll say that one.
Your favorite chart type?
I love a good Sankey chart. It's beautiful. You get those curves going, the flow through of data. Yeah, I'm a big Sankey guy. I like the bee swarm too, but yeah, I'll say Sankey.
A tool you swear by?
Claude. Yeah, okay. I use Claude day in, day out. I use it to look at like mushrooms on my trees, and then also to ask code questions. And it's usually right with both.
And be like, what kind of mushroom on the trees was?
Yeah, like, is this bad? And Claude, it's like, well, it depends. And then it asks clarifying questions, and then I tell it, it's like, oh no, it's cool. It's slime mold. Don't worry about it.
I've never. Sorry. Slime mold, don't worry about it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
all good.
Sorry. Okay, I'm good. I'm like tearing up a little bit over here. I don't know if you can
It's
tell.
amazing.
Um, best advice you've ever received in your career.
So it's career adjacent, but you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Just
So choose wisely.
choose wisely. I like that. Most underrated skill for a data viz engineer.
Being able to diagnose slime mold on a tree is up there. No, I would say empathy, like really thinking, and it goes back to that big lesson learned. Like as a data viz engineer, you're in that space because
Yeah.
you're a geek about charts, but really think about the people you're building for. Sometimes what they
Mhm.
need is a pie chart. So
No,
yeah.
it's true. Sometimes you have to keep it simple. Like I actually do that. Oh, I know this is rabbit. You know what? Let me go back to the question. Think simple. If you weren't working in tech, what would you be doing?
I would have a couple jobs. I'd be a barista making coffee, and I would also be a bike technician working on road and gravel and mountain bikes.
So I could have guessed the coffee based off your like coffee like analogy earlier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What is the last data set that you found unexpectedly interesting?
Yeah, I've got a colleague buddy at work here at Carbon Direct who's been doing a lot of power plant analysis. And there's this concept of the 8760, which is the 24-hour, 365-day a year data set for power plants to measure their efficiency and kind of their output. So it's 8,760 data points that kind of show the personality of a power plant, and it's fascinating. There's different ways to visualize it. It's really, yeah, it's super compelling because it tells so much about the region and kind of
Yeah,
their usage of the power plant. It also shows like how that power plant's used. Yeah, it's really, yeah, it's cool.
that sounds interesting. You have to send me one, send me a link if you guys get a
Yes,
chance to.
for sure.
And then one thing you want to get better at this year.
PRs, peer reviews. So I think and that's for actual humans, but it's also as tools like Devin come into play
Mhm.
more. I'm going to be handing over more tasks to agents and code, and I want to be able to be even better at doing critical reviews of work that's being done.
I think that's actually incredibly beneficial and something that I've noticed was lacking in some of my past like jobs where people would never actually like review my work and I'm like, no, hello.
Give
I
me
submit
feedback.
the PR for you to like tell me stuff that I did wrong. And sometimes I would actually like put something wrong in there. I'm like, are you gonna notice it? And then they don't, and then I'm like, crap, now I have to fix it.
Easter egg, yeah. No, that I think that it's one of the things I've learned the most here at Carbon Direct. Alex Verton is a principal engineer here, and they were staff when I joined, and we did a lot of work together. And the reviews that they did on my PRs were so intense, and they were amazing, and they made me better as sort of an entry level engineer at first, and helped me level up. So being able to kind of apply that same sort of, and this is one thing I've found is if you've ever worked with one of those wizards, you can almost bring their thought processes in when you're doing stuff like
Yeah.
what would Alex do or say in this instance has helped me a lot. And like how can I find another way to think about this code instead of just typing like LGTM approve, you know?
Let's go to
Yeah. It looks good to me, let's go to market, all right, ship it.
why are we like all the same? Like and like we like I've typed in LGTM like so many times to my old colleagues, like, why are we this way?
Right. Yeah.
Or
What is it?
well, Jasper, this has been an invigorating conversation. Thank you so much for your time and for being a great guest.
Of course. Thanks for having me. This was a blast. I hope I didn't derail things too much too often.
It was perfect. You were great. You were hilarious.
Fantastic.